Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey there, everyone. How's it going? Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Thanks for joining me here today on the free, always available Monday through Friday Fantasy Sports Daily show. We rock it and roll it every day. We allow you the opportunity to interact. You can leave comments and questions if you're watching us on live on YouTube at youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. If you're watching us live on Facebook at facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. You can watch, you can comment, leave thoughts, all that kind of stuff. We always address them at the end of the show. You can also watch live on Twitter X at Fantasy Guru site, though you can't comment there. You can always find this show as well at fantasyguru.com. Click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page and then scroll down a little bit. You'll see the logo that you see up there in the right-hand corner, the little Fantasy Sports Daily logo. You can click on that and find all the old shows. And you can always type in Fantasy Sports Daily into your podcast network. And by that, I mean Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Pandora, Spotify. We should be available for all of you to download us and take us on demand and to the gym and to the walk in the mountains and all that kind of good stuff. If you want to hear my voice, I don't know if that's what you do or not, but it's available. All right. What are we talking about today here on the show? We're doing what we normally do. We're talking some baseball. We got Kyle Schwarber, Anthony Santander, Matt Vierling, Jackson Merrill, a couple of those guys with a couple of home runs last night. Zach Neto, Josh Bell, Juan Yepez. And then on the pitching side of things, Cole Ragans, Blake Snell, Andrew Abbott, Nick Pivetta, Dylan Cease. On the hill, Joe Ryan. I got an injury update with him. Tyler O'Neill, Kyle Tucker, Taijuan Walker, Ranger Suarez. We'll probably get to at some point the White Sox firing their coach. Is it the coach's fault that your team sucks? We'll talk about that, I think, at some point. We're going to visit with Russell Clay. We're changing things up. Normally, it's Armando Marsal. Wednesdays, Tyler Beaker. Thursdays, Russell Clay. Fridays. This week, Russell and Tyler are switching. So Tyler will be on tomorrow. Russell will be on with us today. We're going to talk Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson. What's going on with that little tete-a-tete the two are having? Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave. Is there a tight end to have in Green Bay? Jonathon, Mingo, Xavier, Legette, the wide receiver position with the Panthers. We'll talk about Jonathan Brooks too. Get some young action in the backfield. George Pickens, Brandin Ayuk, Mike Williams, and Brandin Cooks. All of that later today. Okay, let's dive right in and start talking some baseball, which is what we do here on the show. Fantasy Sports Daily, Kyle Tucker, wrong Kyle. We'll talk about Kyle Tucker in a second. Hold on a sec. I got to blow my nose here or something. Probably should have done that before the show started. Oh, well. Suck it up, Ray. Kyle Schwarber went 4-4 last night with 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, and a walk. And boom. I just wrote an article we were talking about yesterday, I think, on the show, the batted ball article over at fantasyguru.com. Check it out. Who's had the best batted ball numbers the last 30 days? Kyle Schwarber's in that article. I'm pretty sure this was the right article. Maybe it was. I think that's the right article. Don't kill me if it's not. We're talking about the fact that, he's not going to go 40-90 again. Well, maybe I was hasty with that because he had 3 home runs and 7 RBIs last night. All of a sudden, things look a lot different. Now, he's up 27 home runs and 73 RBIs, so obviously has a very legitimate chance in the RBI column. Is he going to hit 13 home runs the rest of the way? That's pushing it a little bit. Would it be shocking to see him do it? No, it would not. We shall see. He is obviously an extremely streaky hitter. He is a guy that was commented on as well. The fact that, some of the numbers are down, but he's batting over 250, which is a career best number for him. And, it's not good, but when you're used to seeing a 215-20 average for him, hell, he hit 197 last year, hitting 261, which is where the average is after last night. It's hella good. He's now, let's see, the last 2 weeks, 8 home runs, 16 RBIs, hitting 442. Yeah, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs makes it look a lot better. But still, he's been really good for a couple of weeks. And in fact, the last month, hitting 299 with 24 RBIs in 24 games. Kyle Schwarber's in a groove, folks. We've seen it before. We're witnessing it now. Boom, there it goes. Anthony Santander, 2 home runs last night, had 3 RBIs. Look, Santander is someone we've talked about on the show. I've written about in the Cash Game Breakdown over at fantasyguru.com. We've talked about him in Discord. We've talked about him in articles at fantasyguru.com in the seasonal side of things. And at the end of the day, his numbers, he's Kyle Schwarber right now. He's got 11 home runs in the last month. He's got 7 the last 14 days. He's hitting .248 with 34 home runs and 78 RBIs. He's better, or at least equal to, because he's got a few less runs than Kyle Schwarber. He's Kyle Schwarber right now. And it's only that way because, again, Schwarber is hitting .260, which is not normal for him. If he was hitting his normal .220, Anthony Santander would be better. Santander, probably qualifies at 2 spots in your league. He's killing it. And, I don't think many people came into the season with Santander and said he wasn't going to go 25-80. I think a lot of people could have said, all right, if everything comes together, he could go 30-90. I can buy that. And he wouldn't say 40-100 because he's got 34 home runs and 78 RBIs. And with the way he's been swinging the bat now for about a month and a half, he could go 40-100. And, that he was the kind of player that, that's a winning type of move in the fantasy space, right? You drafted him to go 240, 25, 85, and I'm going to go 245, 40, 100. So he's been great. A lot of things have gone well for the Orioles this season, obviously. And he is just one of those things. And it's a lot of the youngsters, right? We talk about it all the time. Here's a guy who's not a youngster. Ryan O'Hearn was the other guy that's kind of the veteran in the lineup. And it's like, he's doing solid work. And he's pulled back a little bit here of late. Santander's gone the other direction. He started off a little slow and he's super hot. He's been great. And he's in a hell of a groove at the moment. Matt Vierling is a very interesting player because he does qualify in most spots at dual positions defensively. He went 3 for 5 last night, stole a base, had a couple of runs scored in RBI. And you look at his numbers, and he's hitting .255. He's got a .297 on base percentage, which is really bad. To be fair, it's really bad. He's got a .434 slug. Yeah, okay, that's fine. And you say to yourself, but he's got 13 home runs, 53 runs scored, 44 RBIs, and he does qualify in multiple positions. So he is a very useful piece without possessing a single skill that stands out in an appreciable way. And, that's the kind of guy that, infield outfield is nice to have, right? Very nice to have that flexibility. Yeah. Last month, he's hitting .289 with a .784 OPS. These are good numbers. Only has 9 RBIs in the 23 games, but he scored 15 runs. So, he's finding a way to help in the counting categories, mostly because of his defensive flexibility, not really because of his offensive game. But he's established himself as an everyday major league player. And that's, that was in doubt a couple of years ago with him. So I'll give him some props there. Again, he's not done anything sexy or exciting now. It's more about, filling those games played, not taking zeros on a daily basis, especially for those of you in a head-to-head. Matt Vierling with his dual position eligibility helps you out there, and maybe even multiple spots. Who knows? Jackson Merrill is somebody that, let's give him some props. Jackson Merrill has been good this season by any objective measure. And in fact, if you look at where he was on February 1st and what the expectations were this season, I think his production has been exemplary. And he had 2 home runs last night. He had a 411-foot home run last night. He had a 442-foot home run last night as well. 4 for 6 on the night. He's pushed his slash line up to a .288 average, which is really good. .318 on base percentage is league average. That's a little disappointing. To be honest, it's a little disappointing. But he overall, again, it's been fantastic. Slugging percentage is .467. That's way better than was anticipated at the start of his career. I would have said I'd be more of the he's going to have a .350 on base percentage and a .450 slugging percentage at this point of his development. It's not what we've seen, but he's been great. I'm not complaining at all. He's got 15 home runs, 59 RBIs. And, he probably is dual position eligible, right? Because he was shortstop and they moved him to the outfield last minute. And, he's kind of like Vierling in the sense that even though he's been spectacular, he hasn't stood out. And that's Ray. Oh my God. 15 home runs, 59 RBIs, 54 runs scored, 11 steals, hitting .288. Like, this is, Josh Reynolds like, or Brian Reynolds like, excuse me, for football, thinking football. Brian Reynolds like of the Pirates. And it's really good. It's really good. Does it stand out? For his age and experience and expectations, 1,000%. Overall, he's going to go 2015 maybe. Then, that speed piece is not Brian Reynolds, right? So again, this season that Jackson Merrill's having was always going to be who he was. It just wasn't expected now. And again, we go back and talk about these things all the time. Jackson Holiday couldn't fail. Well, he failed for half the season. White Langford couldn't fail. Well, he failed for half the season. Evan Carter couldn't fail. Well, he hasn't even played. Like all these guys that were at the top of the list, Jordan Lawler's been hurt, right? Noelvi Marte got a PED suspension. All of these guys, and here's Jackson Merrill, who on February 1st, it's like, maybe he's a prospect 30 this year, 25. Got a full-time opportunity. Unfortunately for next year, he's only going to be eligible in the outfield, but, we'll live with that given his production. Again, big effort for him given everything, and a big effort last night with those two significant home runs. Zach Neto had a home run yesterday in the first game of the doubleheader. He had a home run in the second game of the doubleheader for the Angels. That's pretty good. He's now got 3 home runs and 12 RBIs in 6 games. 3 RBIs and 12 home runs, in 4 games. And this is really starting to get interesting. Zach Neto, who was, last year things were expected of him, and he was disappointing. He wasn't terrible, but he was just a guy, and more of him was expected than that. Coming into this season, he was kind of an afterthought. In my rankings, in most people's rankings, it's like, look, maybe he goes 10, 10, 10, hits 250, who cares kind of thing. Well, he's hitting 260. 781 on base percentage is not impressive, but he's up to 20 steals and 16 home runs now. And, we've got a legitimate chance here that Zach Neto's going to go 2020 with 75 RBIs and 75 runs scored. That's really good, right? And he's another one of these players that you picked up off the waiver wire and you're loving life. 2020 seasons we get them all the time, but from Zach Neto, that's really good. So quietly, while so many things have gone wrong with the Angels, Neto has done an excellent job. The last month, he's hitting 342 with almost 1,100 OPS. He has been blazing for the past month, and he continues to push for that 2020 season. Did not see it coming. I don't think anyone did. Again, a lot of expectations given his pedigree, but no one expected him to take that leap this year. Can you just imagine? And maybe some of you have done this. How many of you drafted Jackson Merrill in the 28th round and then on April 28th picked up Zach Neto? That's league winning stuff there, folks. Josh Bell had a couple home runs on Wednesday. Since joining the Diamondbacks, he's gone 7 for 26 with 4 home runs in 6 games. Bell, who may be in the cash game breakdown over fantasyguru.com today, if you could understand that, has been Josh Bell this season, which is to say a moderately effective corner infield option that you turn to and you're kind of like, I'm just trying to keep pace. But, and here's the obvious but, he's got the 4 home runs in the 6 games with the Diamondbacks, but it goes back longer than that. If you look at his last month of action, he's got 10 home runs the last month with 1,000 OPS. So it's not just the last week, it's the last month. The last month, Josh Bell has hit like he's Freddie Freeman. He's hit like he's Bryce Harper. That's what the numbers tell you. Now, he's not, of course. And again, his overall numbers are Josh Bell. And I don't see anything in his game that leads me to think that this most recent month of action is something that we should be looking at and thinking to ourselves, well, that changes our outlook the last 2 months of Josh Bell. He's now a superstar now, but he is in a nice group and he is playing daily. And with the success he has had, you have to think that even when Christian Walker returns, Josh Bell stays in the lineup. And there was, I think most of us thought that would probably happen anyway, but things start to get tight with the Diamondbacks, right? Because you get into a scenario where, where does everyone play? Christian Walker's going to come back and he's going to play first base. So we'll just put Josh Bell at DH. Okay, but we've got Jock Peterson at DH. Okay, well, let's put Jock Peterson in the outfield. Okay, but we've got Lourdes Gurriel, Alec Thomas, Corbin Carroll, and Jake McCarthy. So, things could start to get tight here. Jock Peterson's playing every day against righties. We know that. Lourdes Gurriel's playing every day. Corbin Carroll's playing every day. So, we'll keep an eye on this, but Josh Bell has done enough that he figures to be a significant part of the lineup on a daily basis the rest of the way. Juan Yepez went 2 for 4 with a 2-run home run last night. Yepez, 330 average, 380 on base percentage, 523 slugging percentage. He has been another one of these magnificent waiver wire additions with not much was expected of when they were, when the player was called up. And, again, he's got an 871 OPS. These are really good numbers in 27 games, 16 runs, 14 RBIs, really good. The downer is he's got a 370 batting average on balls in play, which is not sustainable. His exit velocity is 87 miles an hour, which is really poor. His barrel rate's below league average. It's not even 6%. His hard hit rate's 37%. Nothing here in the batted ball profile suggests we're going to get a continuation here. The batting average on balls in play is too high. Even with all of his success, the isolated power mark is barely league average. He is a younger version of Josh Bell. And again, both guys killing it right now, but he's a younger version of Josh Bell. So we'll see. But right now, again, waiver wire pickup, fantastic. Just not somebody that you should be expecting this to continue on, and not likely to continue to be the category producer he is either in the runs and RBIs column, because his production will slow, and it's not like his teammates are fantastic around him necessarily either. Let's talk a little bit about the pitching side of things. Cole Ragans gave up 4 runs yesterday. Only 1 was earned, had 7 strikeouts and a win over the Red Sox. The Red Sox are obviously a very difficult team to face right now. So that's a pretty impressive effort for him. Again, 4 runs, but only 1 was earned. He's got a 3.3 ERA, a 1.17 whip, and a big-time 166 strikeouts and 140 innings. Got about a 3-to-1, a little bit better than that. Strikeout to walk ratio, too, which is nice. The problem with Ragans is that, and this is something that I wrote about in the preseason. This is something we've talked about. I will say this. He has been better than I anticipated, so full marks to him. But we do run into the workload thing. And, again, this was detailed in his player profile in the preseason. He's had multiple arm injuries, surgeries. There is not a lot of meat on these bones when it comes to workload. He continues to look good and be effective. So there's no overt, this is a stopping point for the Royals or anything like that. But again, we're up to 140 innings from him. If you look at the standings, obviously the Royals have playoff aspirations. They can't shut him down. You would think if they want to make the playoffs, then if they make the playoffs, they're going to have to lean on him. There's a lot of guys in baseball this year that we're going to see, right? We're going to see how tied teams are to the idea of, well, we only want to increase the guy X amount of innings or X amount of pitches or whatever from year to year, because there's a lot of guys that are blowing past workload limits or workload numbers, excuse me. Like last season, he's already passed last season's innings pitch mark. In 2022, he threw what? Doing quick math here, he threw 135 innings. So about where 2022, he's about where he is right now. 2021, he was in the 80 zone. 2020, he was in the 0 zone. 2019, he was in the 0 zone. 2018, he was in the 0 zone. There is a lot of injury in this guy's background. We're basically already at a career best level. We're right up there with 2022 for a career best level of innings. And we'll see. I mean, that's the thing. We'll see. Are they going to let him throw 180 innings and then pitch in the playoffs? I mean, they might have no choice. He might feel good. They might be seeing good things. They might let him do it, and then we'll see what happens in the future, because he threw 905. He threw 120 innings last year, 125 innings last year. They can let him throw 180 and then the playoffs? Maybe. He has looked good, and he was successful last night against a very difficult lineup. Blake Snell followed up that no-hitter that he threw last time out with a 3-run effort in 6 innings last night. So had a quality start against the Nationals. A little disappointing, but it's a quality start. That's actually his worst start in the 5 since he's come back. And Blake Snell, who I downed repeatedly here for stealing money from the Giants, and he stole money from the Giants in the first half. In the second half, holy whippersnappers. His last 5 games, let's go. Last 6 games. I can't count. Last 6 games. He's got a 1.15 ERA. He's got a 4.5 strikeout to walk ratio. He's got 49 strikeouts in 39 innings. And folks, that's 5 runs in 6 games. And this is the same thing he did last year down the stretch for the Padres. When he is locked in, he is almost unhittable. I mean, and he's given up 12 hits in 39 innings. 12 hits in 39 innings. He's almost unhittable. Problem is, when he's not locked in, he's a league average guy. And there are a lot of scouts that are very concerned about him long-term, because they look at his off-speed stuff and they say, if he gives up anything on that, everything will pull back very quickly for him. And it will be a legitimate concern for him if he's going to be able to have success in this league. And that's so anyway. long term, we'll deal with that in the future. Right now, he's pitching as well as anyone in baseball. All the negative things that I put on Blake Snell's shoulders now we can move on from. He's with the Giants. The Giants are hoping and counting, depending upon him the rest of the way. Great place to pitch in San Francisco. Good environment. Blake Snell is rocking and rolling right now. Andrew Abbott is somebody we've had some back and forth with here. Not here, I guess in Discord, because I wasn't as high on Andrew Abbott, and someone questioned me like, Ray, what? And I think last night is kind of an example of why I'm not overly excited about Andrew Abbott. Faces the Marlins, gave up 6 runs. Gave up 6 runs against anybody in 5 innings, obviously. Against the Marlins, it's not good. And, the fact is that his area of 3.7 is fine. I think that number continues to rise. His whip of 1.31 is league average. 104 strikeouts and 126 innings, league average. Barely a 2-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio, not league average, worse than league average. Abbott is somebody that is a streaming option. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all need streaming. I need streaming options. I would love to have Andrew Abbott off the waiver wire in some of my leagues, right? But that's just what he is. He's still been very fortunate with a 257 batting average and balls in play. He is homer prone because of the fact he's got a 50% fly ball rate. We see that with 1.7 home runs per 9, which is a terrible number as well. He's got an 84% left on base percentage, which maybe one person a year gets there, maybe, usually not. We usually have 1 or 2 hit 80. When I say one guy gets to 84, I can't rule out that guys have hit 85, right? Doesn't happen. I mean, there's a very, and if he holds on to this mark, 84% this year, we got to worry next year because pitchers almost always regress toward the league average there in that left on base percentage mark. It's been very fortunate there. And like I said, his ERA is 3.7. His expected ERA is 4.1. Let's see here if I can pull it up quickly. His Sierra is 4.8. His xFIP is 4.9. So there is still regression potentially coming. Last night may not be the only effort that Andrew Abbott struggles with the rest of the way. Nick Pivetta, the next guy up that we're going to talk about here on the hill. Nick Pivetta, here we go. He's not hurt, but his arm is tired. Okay. He's having some fatigue issues. So Alex Cora came out last night and said they're going to skip his start. So for those of you that started, Pivetta this week, sorry if you can't change your lineup. He had some reduced velocity last time out as well. So they're not at this point in time saying he's going to go on the injured list, though, as we know from talking about this every day on the show. Teams say that all the time, and then the guy ends up on the injured list. It doesn't seem to be anything that they are, MRIs, and they're concerned that it's not like that with Pivetta. But he's going to miss his next start. Some point next week, they'll get him back out there in the rotation. We don't know when. We don't have this is a firm target date for that. We'll continue to obviously monitor the news, but Pivetta's not going to start this week. So if you have him going this week and you can make changes, you got to start thinking about making those changes because he's not going to be available. Dylan Cease, who pitched in the rainout the other day, who's been pitching really well himself, kind of dueling Blake Snell. He is going to start one of the games this weekend, probably Sunday against the Marlins. Not exactly sure, but probably Sunday. If that is the case, there's a then likelihood that Joe Musgrave, who's on the cusp of returning from his injury, wouldn't pitch until next week. They'd bump him back an extra day. That seems very logical and reasonable at this point. That's probably what they'll do. We'll continue to give updates here on the show if we get information that suggests we should give an update. Joe Ryan. Joe Ryan. I mean, I've been talking about this a lot. Like in my life. Okay. My Tout Wars team, again, I'm tied for first place now. As we're doing the running daily schedule here. Ray, what's your team look like? I'm tied for first place now. Here is my current healthy pitching staff on the starting pitching front. 15-team mixed league. I'm in first place. Jose Barrios, Nick Lodolo, Framber Valdez, Paul Skeens, Kyle Harrison, Ryan Nelson, Marcus Stroman, Miles Mikolas, Bailey Falter, Luis Ortiz. Does that sound like a first place team's pitching staff? Just lost Joe Ryan, who has been healthy up into this point. My anchor, Ian Valdez, was removed yesterday with the tricep issue. We don't know how long he's going to miss in terms of time. We don't know for certain if he's going to miss his next start. Seems like he will, of course. We don't know if he's going to go on the injured list. Kind of seems like he's going to go on the injured list. Here is what Rocco Baldelli said after the game. It doesn't seem like I'm quoting here. Quote, Doesn't seem like some type of large-scale issue. We don't really know enough right now to say anything. He's probably going to miss a little time here in one form or another, but we're going to have to wait and see. He's going to have plenty of time to come back and pitch some games for us this year, unquote. So you can obviously read that as he's missing his next start. You can read that as he's going on the injured list. You can also read that, again, at this point in time, as the clear indication and expectation that this is not a structural thing with Ryan. This is not something that's going to cost him 6 weeks. He should be back and pitching for the Twins relatively soon. Again, is that next week? Is that 2 weeks? Is that 3 weeks? Is that not catastrophic news, but not good news? Because we know how these things go too. Your tricep makes up, 60% of your upper arm? I don't know. I made that up. But the majority of your upper arm is your tricep muscle. And it's obviously kind of important as you extend your arm. You kind of need your tricep. So we'll see with Joe Ryan. It comes at a really rough time. Because again, me and you, I'm sure, counting on Joe Ryan to do some good things for us down the stretch. And we're not certain when that goodness of his success is going to continue on the hill. Tyler O'Neill, who has, I think, he's probably exceeded expectations in his first year with the Red Sox, right? He has. The problem is he keeps getting hurt. And that's been an issue that he has dealt with despite being Mr. Muscle and Fitness. Body breaks down a lot. And now he's being placed retroactively to August 4th on the injured list with that calf issue. He's also been dealing with an illness of some kind. So he's all kinds of beat up and messed up right now. We'll see. It's another one like the Joe Ryan thing. It doesn't seem like Tyler O'Neill is going to miss a month. It doesn't seem like that. You could potentially say, look, he's dealing with this illness. It's hit him pretty hard. Maybe he's going to miss another 3 or 4 days anyway. So let's just put him on the injured list and let the calf calm down a little bit. We're not going to play for a couple days anyway. We can backdate it to August 4th. Maybe there's some of that. So there's a chance he's back next week. Certainly there's a chance he's back next week. But again, another situation to monitor. And when he returns, got to keep in mind that he's not Byron Buxton, but there are a lot of bumps and bruises that have precluded him from playing over the years. So keep that in mind with Tyler O'Neill. Kyle Tucker update. Let's give one of those. He can't sprint. He can jog, but he can't sprint. Again, I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on here. Just giving the updates as we get them. That's all the Astros can do. They keep giving us updates without telling us much of anything. We have no idea what a target date for his return is. But if he can't sprint, exactly. Taijuan Walker pitched last night in his second minor league rehab assignment. He allowed just a run over 5 innings of work. He threw 60 pitches, 40 of them for strikes. He was pretty sharp last night. And it sounds like it's possible he could return to the rotation for the Phillies next week. Might need one more start in the minors. They're hoping he won't. If he wakes up today, feels good. If he returns to that rotation, Tyler Phillips is likely the odd man out. That's especially so because you've got the situation with Ranger Suarez, who's out with the back issue. He's going to throw another bullpen today, and he's nearing a return as well, provided the bullpen session goes well today. Might make a start in the minors, then be activated. So both Suarez and Walker looking like they're likely to return to the Phillies rotation in short order. Tyler Phillips is the guy that's going to be the loser there as a result of that. So adjust accordingly in your fantasy leagues. Okay, before we talk to Russell Clay and talk some football, let's talk a little bit about the Pedro Grifol firing by the White Sox. If you didn't hear, the White Sox fired their manager. And, okay, get it, understand it, fine. But is it his fault? Now, I don't know the inner workings of the locker room. Is it the manager's fault if the organization doesn't give him any players? And remember, the White Sox, who are 28-89, with the worst record in baseball, who have a chance to have the worst record. They have the chance to be one of the 3 worst teams in the history of baseball if they're not already in that group, just because they have a chance to have the all-time record for losses in the season. And they traded their best starting pitcher in Eric Fede. They traded their closer in Michael Kopech, and they traded one of their starting outfielders in Tommy Pham. They're a worse team now than they were 2 weeks ago. And they're the worst team in baseball already. So is this Mr. Grifol's fault? Like, I know you can't fire the team, but isn't this a fire the front office? Which, now, of course, no one's going to fire themselves. But fire the front office, fire the people that are making the decisions on payroll, the people making decisions on players. The manager can only manage with what he's got. Now, I haven't done a ton of research here. I will admit that. But I don't recall seeing a bunch of articles over the last 4 months that Pedro Grifol doesn't know how to manage, that he's making all kinds of in-game decisions that are wrong, that he's going against conventional wisdom, or this. I don't remember seeing that anywhere. So the manager takes the fall because the team sucks. The team sucks because the front office sucks. And this is a terrible situation because we've talked a lot about Garrett Crochet and what's going on with him. The 5 starts in a row with 4 innings or less. We can't even count on him in the fantasy space anymore. Luis Robert, if he tweaks anything, they shut him down. This team is terrible. Manager pays the price. Fair or not. Yeesh. 28-89. At least they won a game the other night against the Athletics as Ross Stripling lost his 11th game in like 14 starts or something ridiculous. But 28-89. What do you think? Let me know in Discord over at fantasyguru.com. You can leave a comment here as well in the chat room. Okay. Let's talk some football. It's Thursday. And on Thursdays, we always talk with Tyler Beaker. Now, Tyler Beaker is a complete slacker this week. Actually, I think he's got a family wedding he's attending, so he's not really a slacker. He'll be on tomorrow with us. But Russell Clay, who's always on Fridays, was gracious enough to say, you know what? I will step up. I will support my teammate. I will return to the show a day early to help all of you with some football advice. So let's bring him in. That is Russell Clay of fantasyguru.com. Russell, you were pumping the fist. I don't think the folks saw it, but you're pumping the fist. Thank you for stepping forward for your slacker teammate and for the listeners and viewers of the show.
Yeah, unlike the White Sox, we are working together right now. We're going to create some great content. And rough, Ray. I just heard your White Sox thing. It is wild.
I mean, we see this happen all the time, right, in sports, because you can't fire the players, right? But again, I don't know. Is he lost the locker room? Is there swearing and fighting? And maybe there's things we don't know about, right? But it's not his fault this team's 28-89. He doesn't have any players, and they took away 3 of his 5 best players at the trade deadline.
So we won't see this every year in each professional sport, but we do see this every once in a while. The Lions, when they went 0-16, a few of those NBA teams when they were tanking, and even good players start to not play well, like you were talking about Crochet. He was great, and this does beat you down. Calvin Johnson talked about how he retired earlier than he would have because he was just on so many bad teams. They had a few that were semi-competitive, but that beats you down. You're a human at the end of the day.
Yeah, and Angela's talking about there. They fired their bench coach. They fired their third base coach. They fired their assistant coach. It's all their faults that the players suck that they have to work with. It's all their faults, Russell.
Man.
If we struggle at fantasyguru.com, I'm not going to fire you.
Good.
Don't worry. Let's talk some football here. We got a situation that, and by the way, go to fantasyguru.com, click the subscribe tab in the top right corner to get the football product that Russell's all over. Got a situation with Aaron Rodgers. None of us like Aaron Rodgers. I don't think. Maybe some people do, but I don't think there's much doubt if he's healthy, he's going to be an effective quarterback for this team. The offense is going to work for the Jets. Their defense is really good. This could be obviously a playoff bound team this year. They've got Rodgers throwing to Garrett Wilson, which on paper is it's been a little tense here the last week or so with those two. Do you take anything away from that? Does that matter to you at all when you hear a report like that came out of the Athletic?
Well, the first time I remembered seeing this, so we all saw the Garrett Wilson on the sideline arguing with Rodgers. I know right now, Greg Jennings hates Aaron Rodgers. He hates that guy's guts. Whenever he gets the chance to say something bad about Aaron Rodgers, he takes it. So I don't know what Jordy Nelson's doing nowadays. I've never heard him talk about Aaron Rodgers, and I've never heard Jordy Nelson talk, to be quite honest. but I know the Greg Jennings things happened. So all of his teammates, he has a history of this a little bit. So Garrett Wilson is an unbelievable young wide receiver, and Rodgers has a long history of optimizing these types of characters for fantasy purposes. So I'm very in on this, but there's probably going to be some ugly sideline confrontations throughout the year.
Good old Aaron Rodgers. Let's go to his old team, the Packers. And, I ask you and Tyler and Armando at times these questions about tight end twos, which are no one wants to talk about it. And I don't know necessarily that the listeners really want to talk about, but it's important because someone that no one's talking about that's a tight end 22 or whatever is going to be a weekly starter this year, right? It happens every year.
Yeah.
They've got 2 guys And kind of in the theme, the Packers of having 18 wide receivers, they of course have 2 tight ends. They've got Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. I'm not saying which one of these guys breaks out. That's asking too much. But if you had to take a shot, if you were taking that second tight end, or even if you were in a dynasty keeper league, how do you break down Kraft and Musgrave as a duo of tight ends with the Packers?
So the chain of command here for tight ends, wide receivers, and running backs is I start with draft position. Then we go with, on-field performance so far. And that's the base of the meal we're cooking here. And then we can go with other things like quarterback play, coaching, system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When you look at this Packers offense as a whole, it's a mess from a fantasy perspective. We have Romeo Doubs, we have Christian Watson, we have Jaden Reed. Christian Watson and Reed, 2 guys that would probably take some usage from tight ends. We have the tight ends that they drafted back-to-back in last year's draft. It is a messy situation for fantasy. I will say I do like Musgrave at where he's being drafted. I think he's a nice value, and I do think he's going to be the clear starter there. But the real signal here is, much like a lot of these tight ends right now, could be more 2 tight end sets than we expect this year in Green Bay.
Russell Clay, Ray Flowers here on Fantasy Sports Daily. You can normally see him on Fridays, but again, he's here on Thursdays helping us out. Tyler Beaker will be with us tomorrow. Xavier Legette's got a foot issue. I know it's always right. These young guys get hurt and then you never hear from him again. Let's hope that's not the case. He's got a foot issue, and Jonathon Mingo, who has got some talent, and had a couple of moments last year, starting to get some hype, and so. Is he somebody, if you're still doing best balls, you've taken Jonathon Mingo at the end of your draft? Is there any interest in a redraft league with Jonathon Mingo? Is this offense just so blah that, we're not really worried about it, just can't support much through the air? Your thoughts on the Legette Mingo situation with the Panthers?
So the Jonathon Mingo experience ended quickly. Normally you don't see franchises and organizations give up on a guy after one season. But that Legette pick was a clear, all right, we're moving forward. We're trading for Deontay Johnson. This is a wrap. However, this injury does open up an opportunity. And while Mingo's performance last year was really ugly, and there were good reasons why they replaced him, he was a 2nd rounder last year. Now, it was a reach. It was not a good pick for the Panthers, and I think they're seeing the results of that, but still a 2nd rounder. Injury opportunity, certainly worth looking at in the last round of a best ball draft. You're not really thinking about him in a season-long league, but I did take him in the final round, round 20, pick 232 last night in a drafter's draft. So, expectations are what they are, but this is probably his final opportunity with the Panthers.
And as you can see there, we do have a deal with drafters that Russell just mentioned. We have rankings for best ball over at fantasyguru.com, including Tyler Beaker put a whole package together, kind of best ball stuff with some rankings for underdog and drafters both, I think. You can go to drafters.com, sign up there. If you're already a user, use the promo code ELITE10. That'll give you a 10% match. So you can re-up. They'll give you a 10% match with the promo code ELITE10. If you've never signed up at Drafters and you want to get involved here and try to win part of the $2.5 million in prizes they've got, use the promo code ELITE. Simple as that. Use the promo code ELITE for a 100% match on your deposit. Speaking of the Carolina Panthers, we've talked previously, Russell, you and I, about Jonathan Brooks and Chuba Hubbard in the background and all that. Their coach basically said, look, he's not going to play in the preseason, Jonathan Brooks. Maybe week 3 or week 4, which I think is, as he comes back from his ACL injury, I think that's basically what we expected. Did you hear that news and change your opinion on Brooks or Hubbard or the running attack with the Panthers? Or is that kind of what you were expecting to hear?
This is what I was expecting. And if you weren't, and you were thinking you were just getting Jonathan Brooks, the top running back in the 2024 class at pick 90 for no reason, then, that's on you a little bit. But first month, probably not going to see much. And first couple months, honestly, we're working back from a major injury here with Brooks, and he looks great, as a Texas Longhorn. But we've seen with a bunch of these running backs over the last couple of years, it's not just the injury itself, it's getting back to game speed, in the game, cutting, having confidence in that knee. So sometimes that takes a little longer than we want. But I still think he's a great value pick, and even more so now. We'll see if he drops, but if you can get him as sort of a flyer RB3, RB4, RB5, you're getting nice upside for the second half of the year. And head-to-head leagues, those concentrated weeks of the playoffs are worth so much more than any other week that if he's producing RB2 numbers by then, the pick was easily worth it.
Russell Clay, Ray Flowers. As of right now, I haven't really checked the last half hour I'm doing the show here, but I don't think Brandin Ayuk has been traded in the last half hour. In this situation, I mean, who knows if the reports are accurate or not, but he's trying to get traded. The team said, go for it, kid. Work out a trade. The Patriots said, we'll pay you $30 million a year. And Brandin Ayuk said, nah, bro, I don't want to play for you. If that's the case, there's no point. This whole thing there's no point. They offered to pay him double what he's making now, $30 million. And he didn't want to go there. I don't know, because it's cold or because the team's not very good. He's in an ideal scenario to get paid. What's he getting paid? $14 million and to try to win a Super Bowl. So I don't know what your motivation is. What are your thoughts with Brandin Ayuk? And I say that because we have to determine, do we change our thoughts? We spent a lot of time talking about Rashee Rice this preseason. Now we've got Brandin Ayuk. Is he going to stay with the Niners? Is he going to get traded from the Niners? Where is he going to end up? How do we value him at the draft? And we heard that the spot he really wants to go, one of the two spots he really wants to go, is Pittsburgh. And we got a report from The Athletic that said, the Niners will happily trade him to the Steelers, but they want a receiver back. It's like, okay, is that George Pickens or is that Roman Wilson? Like, who are they? Are the Steelers going to get Ayuk and trade Pickens? That doesn't make any sense. So talk to us about Ayuk and that whole messy situation. And then what are your thoughts on Pickens, let's say with Ayuk with him and without Ayuk with him?
I was thinking back to the last time some wide receiver made this much offseason news. It had to be when T.O. was doing workouts in his driveway. The amount, the Drew Rosenhaus. I was a younger lad, but I do remember that. That was all summer on ESPN News on the bottom ticker, and they had the B-roll of literally him working out in the driveway. All right, Brandin Ayuk's a great player. What are we doing here? There's so much, all the speculation of all the teams. He is a very good player, but I don't know what his media team has done to get this much attention, but they are crushing it. He's getting a ton. Maybe he's going to start, doing TikTok and doing all that stuff and streaming, because this feels more like a media campaign than a trade thing. Because if he really wanted to be traded, he'd be gone. Right. He's making this really difficult for the 49ers. So yeah, I thought he was a 49er. I thought he was a Patriot, and I thought he was a Steeler. So I'm done for now, but he's a very good player and will help any offense he's on. So yeah, it's just a strange situation as we're in training camp now, Brandon. Get on a team there, brother.
I mean, do you draft him as a wide receiver 2 still and just figure that wherever he is, he's going to have a significant role? Because, I mean, you hear him going to the Steelers, you hear him going to the Commanders. Like, I don't see him going there and his numbers improving from where they'd be with the Niners.
Oh, definitely not. There's value in drafting him now if he stays with the Niners. Of course, he's going to be an amazing fantasy asset. But yeah, if he went to the Pats, that's not the same as Brock Purdy and the Kyle Shanahan Madden all pro level gameplay here. So yeah, it's a little different.
What about George Pickens? He's a tremendous talent. He's not a possession guy. He's obviously a field stretcher and high point in football. He's a tremendous talent. Should have improved quarterback play. His ADP, 25, 30-ish at the wide receiver position. Do you like that? Are you in on Pickens? And would you change your opinion hypothetically if Brandin Ayuk was on the Steelers too?
I love George Pickens. I'm not afraid to say it. And I was laughing last night because, whenever I say something about George Pickens, someone replies with, "This is an Arthur Smith offense right now." And then I reply with, "Yes, I know. There's 3 more weeks till the season. Let me be a little irrational for a little more time. And then I get to be pissed off for 17 weeks. But in the offseason, I think George Pickens is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. All the, character issues, whatever. The laziness on the run blocking, whatever. He's an amazing young wide receiver. And yeah, adding Brandin Ayuk, those are 2 very different things. The question for Pickens with or without Ayuk is the volume. He's not going to get 160 targets this year. My goal for him, 130. I think we're in a really good range for him to really exceed value. He only got he had 1,100 yards on like 105 targets last year. So if he can get to 130, 140, we're in a really good spot for him.
Talking some football with Russell Clay here on Fantasy Sports Daily. Let's go further down the wide receiver chart in terms of ADP past Pickens and Ayuk. And a couple of names. And we talked already about one of these situations without mentioning him directly. Mike Williams with the Jets. Mike Williams working with Aaron Rodgers. Mike Williams is one of the most dynamic wide receivers in football who, of course, can't play 4 quarters of football. But working with Rodgers, like you can dream. Brandin Cooks looks like the number 2 receiver on his team. Now, Brandin Cooks is an aging guy. He's a little dude. Him and Mike Williams standing next to each other, you'd laugh. Like they don't even look like they're the same guy, right? They play the same position, excuse me. ADP is very similar. One guy has a much higher floor. One guy seems to have a higher ceiling. If you had to take a shot on Mike Williams or Brandin Cooks in 2024, who would you take a shot on?
Who would I take a shot on? I would take Mike Williams.
Do it, Russ. Yes.
But I know he's playing 3 games this year. I know that, but I love him and I'm going to root for him and he's going to have a sick 3 touchdown game and we're all going to get excited about him and Rodgers together. And then he's going to roll his ankle. So I've been a fan of Mike Williams since I didn't love when he was initially drafted, but after I saw some of his stuff in the NFL, I was all in. He had 1 good year and the rest have just been all pain. So it is what it is. Rodgers could easily make him his guy. And we know Rodgers does that towards the red zone, favoritism with the touchdowns. So if he makes Mike Williams his guy, we could see 15 touchdowns out of him. But we could also see him get hurt in the first month of the season. So that's why he's being drafted where he is. I think it's worth the risk, but if you're off the train and you don't want to get on again, I totally understand.
Yeah, it's one of the, and again, it's how your teams come together, I think, how your roster is constructed and all that. Because again, Mike Williams, the guy you dream on, but significant downside with Mike Williams. Let's go to a situation with the Patriots with 2 younger guys. 2 guys I know that in the dynasty world, and for those that don't know, Russell covers the dynasty setup. He's the guy that does dynasty rankings, all of that. If I said the names Jalen Polk and Demario Douglas, give us an answer for 2 things, Russell. 1, which guy do you prefer in 2024? And secondly, which guy do you prefer in a dynasty setup? Demario Douglas, Jalen Polk of the Patriots.
Jalen Polk, I would say 2nd rounder. And that's important information. It's not all the information. Again, we just talked about Jonathon Mingo earlier, and that didn't work out at all. So it's not a lock-in, this is going to work out every time. But when they're free and you have that information, you can say, okay, Jalen Polk, they did draft him in the 2nd round. The organization is invested in him. They are not invested in Demario Douglas beyond his play last year. He did play well. He's competing with Javon Baker, Juju, KJ Osborne, Kendrick Bourne, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the only way for these young guys to really get ahead of some of these vets is to have some investment from the franchise. And that's why Jalen Polk, he was free in rookie drafts. And I don't blame people for not being interested in Patriots wide receivers. But what I would say is, much like Tank Dell with CJ Stroud last year. Now, this time last year, CJ Stroud was struggling through the preseason. Nobody wanted any Texans weapons, kind of including myself. I mean, you'd take shots on these guys, but nobody wanted Tank Dell this time last year. So that was a guy the Texans invested in. CJ Stroud ended up being really good. Tank Dell ends up popping off. So if Drake May, you can also tie this to Drake May.
Mm-hmm.
If you think Drake May is going to be good, someone in this offense is going to be really good. I would take a shot on the guy they invested in.
Russell Clay at fantasyguru.com. Again, remember, go to the website, fantasyguru.com, click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. You can get the seasonal football package, the DFS football package, the wagering football package. You can get all three packages. You can send a note to our support team at support@fantasyguru.com. Send them an email. Hey, guys, I'd like to sign up for all three of these things. I'd like to get the VIP Platinum package. I want to be part of everything you do for every sport. I'd like to get baseball DFS or baseball wagering. Send a note to support@fantasyguru.com. You can follow Russell on Twitter X at Russell J. Clay. You can see him Tuesday nights on the live stream. That's at 7 o'clock Eastern. He's always on there. What do you got coming up here? What writings we'll be seeing from you in the near future here, Russell?
Yeah, we got Clay's Corner on Friday. I saw Chris mentioned what's the pretzel review for this week. I did a pod with Jeff Mans, and he talked about pop crunches or something like that. I got to go find those. I might be testing out a Jeff Mans special. And then Ray Flowers posted, he sent me some chocolate covered pretzels from Trader Joe's. So we got some good ammo in the holster here, Chris, for reviews. So those will be coming up soon. And then Jack mentioned it. Boot camp. We got our yearly training camp for Fantasy Guru. So started working on a little presentation there for us for this year.
Yeah, that's August 16th. It's all day long. Basically what you're seeing here, it's what we do in the training camp, but it's all day long and it's all football. The whole staff gets involved. We get presentations all day. Theoretically, we'll all have PowerPoint presentations. We'll be all pretty looking at all of that. There is usually, I think it's going to happen again. There's usually poker after.
Yeah.
You get a ticket to play in some of the staff with the staff, play in some leagues here with everybody. So check that out at fantasyguru.com. It's a great all day thing. If you miss it, if you're not, 16th guys, I'm not around. Don't worry, it's stored. You can watch the whole thing the next day if you want on the website. So it's all there. I'll be involved with that too as we get there. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to the next pretzel review. Sorry I didn't buy those pretzels the other night. I just saw them as I was going through the checkout line, and my gal was like, "What are you taking?" I go, "Shh." She's like, "Why are you taking pictures?" I go, and I'm texting you. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm texting my coworker, and she's trying to figure this. You're texting your coworker pretzel. So I explained it to her after. But
yes,
yeah. So we'll hopefully you'll get some good pretzels in. By the way, before I let you go, Russell, is your draft book out yet?
It should be. Yes, I submitted that a bit ago, so it should be out. Yes, my I did tight end premium draft book. So if you're in any tight end premium leagues, check that out.
There you go. We got you covered with the different varieties of leagues over at fantasyguru.com. Thanks for coming today and day early. Appreciate it, Russell. Thanks for all your good work. The great visit today. You can send Russell questions again on Twitter X at Russell J. Clay. Watch his show, read his articles, hit him up in Discord. He's always in there answering questions as well. Russell, thanks for your time today. Have a great Thursday. Eat some pretzels this weekend, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Go Frankie Montas.
Oh, geez, look at this guy. Is he on your team? Do you have a team where you're just cheering for Frankie Montas?
I just do. I do. Drafters has a pick 'em,
right?
And so sometimes I get free tickets for the best ball, or
right.
But we just fire in some random right.
Every once in a while, Russell will jump in the baseball chat, the Discord over, and he'll be like, "Yay, Tyler Fitzgerald!" And you're like, "What is he talking about?" Like, oh, that's why. Okay. Appreciate it, Russell. Thanks for your time today. Have a good one.
See you, Ray.
Russell J. Clay of fantasyguru.com. All right, a couple of comments before we shut things down here again. Remember, Fantasy Sports Daily, Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time. go to fantasyguru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Again, you can send a note to our support team, support@fantasyguru.com. Any questions, you want to partner some things up, you want to get a little of this, a little of that, send a note over to support@fantasyguru.com. Ted Schuster will help you out there. Yes, so as we said with training camp, we call it training camp, not boot camp, but training camp, August 16th next week. Chris, we talked about the pretzels. Angela, we mentioned the fact, they got rid of everybody with the White Sox coaching staff. Doug M, is Trevor McGill droppable on the injured list? Devin Williams is back now. The answer on whether McGill is droppable is dependent, I think, upon your IL space. If you don't have IL space, holding on to middle relievers is a very difficult thing to do. Just taking a dead roster spot for a middle reliever, very difficult to do. If you have IL space, I think absolutely you do it. If you're in a Souls league versus a Saves league, that also increases McGill's outlook because when he comes back, he should be in a high leverage situation, the bullpen working in front of Williams. So the answer is nuanced. No IL spots. I think it's fair to move on from him, get someone else. If you have IL spots, hold. If you're in a Souls league, I would try to hold as well, even if he's not getting those saves. Chris Mann said, and I mentioned this on the Elite Sports Show, that's Monday through Friday on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio with Jeff Manns. I'm on every Wednesday. I was on there yesterday. I did a little I can't go for that where I got all angry, not being able to get my windshield clean. So I've seen a couple people, had some people send me some stuff on Twitter X at the Ray Flowers, some advice here. Chris says, hey, Ray, clean your car windows in the shade. Just use plain water, one wet paper towel, then immediately hit it with a dry one. I will say this, that I always try to do my windshield when the car is cold. Yeah, don't drive your car in the 90-degree heat for 3 hours and then try to clean your windshield. That's a bad idea. Always try to do it when it's cold. I haven't tried just the water trick in a while, so maybe I'll try that next. I appreciate everyone trying to help me out because you all know what I'm talking about, right? You can't get the damn windshield clean. There's always that little film on it or something that leaks out. I see Russell Clay in the green room nodding his head. We all can't get that thing. So I'm going to try all these new tricks and trades. And again, I mentioned yesterday, I've used microfiber, I've used cotton towels, I've used T-shirts, I've used paper towels, I've used newspapers. I've tried all this stuff, but maybe Chris has got the key here. Let's try plain water. I haven't tried that in a while. Doug M says, we're talking baseball, Kluski and Campanella. I'm not going to sing the rest of that, but that's for those of you old people like me will know what I'm talking about here. Angelo said, ESPN has Merrill Kelly listed as starting Sunday versus the Phillies, but I don't see it anywhere else. Merrill Kelly is very close to being returned to the active roster for the Diamondbacks. There is a line of thought that he could be activated here in a couple of days. Last night he pitched. He went 4 innings, gave up 3 runs, 6 hits, struck out 2. Wasn't exactly a sharp outing, but there it is. Let's do a calendar. So if we pitched on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's not enough time. So he's not pitching Sunday. But he could be back and starting for the Diamondbacks next week. That is a very doable thing, I think, at this point in time. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening today. We'll see you again tomorrow. Tell a friend about the free show here, Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific time. I'm Ray Flowers at fantasyguru.com. We talk baseball for the first half hour of the show, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Football, the second half of the show. Monday and Tuesdays, all baseball. Tomorrow we'll visit with Tyler Beaker, and we'll continue to take your comments and questions and all that stuff here. Head over to FG, sign up, get the product, get Russell Clay's work. It's good stuff. The rest of the team is too. I like Russell. He's a nice guy. Get his stuff over at fantasyguru.com. For Russell Clay, I am Ray Flowers. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.